Hi, Alyssa. My name is Mike, and I was actually calling to see if I could book in a property showing with you guys.
Sure, Mike. Which one of our properties were you interested in checking out?
I wanted to see if 1302 Cascade Lane is still open for a showing.
Yes, 1302 Cascade Lane is still available for viewing. Are you free Friday at 3 p.m.?
Actually, would you be able to do Thursday around 1?
I can check. One moment, please. Let me see. Thursday at 1 p.m., correct?
Yeah, is that available?
Yes, it is. I've booked that in. Thomas will be happy to show you 1302 Cascade Lane this Thursday at 1 p.m.
Okay, that sounds great. I look forward to it.
Is there any additional information you'd like me to note in the system for your showing? I also need an email address to send the confirmation to.
Sure. My email address is mike2025@gmail.com. And aside from that, there's nothing I would be interested in noting at this moment, but thank you.
You're very welcome, Mike. We have your email as mike2025@gmail.com, and we've saved the showing of 302 Cascade Lane this Thursday at 1 p.m. for you. See you then.
Thank you. So having a personal assistant is actually pretty expensive, and to be honest, it's not even practical for most people. You could pay someone upwards of $20 an hour just to do something basic like book appointments for you, or if you're in real estate, for example, to set up home showings for your properties. But what I'm about to show you guys today is an AI voice agent that can do exactly that. So it can set up home showings for you and book appointments based off of your calendar availability, and it can also reference data that you have, such as a CRM or a property database, to determine which properties are currently available to be shown. And all of this can happen on complete autopilot. And this voice agent can actually be customized to do nearly any admin task that you want it to do. In today's example, I'm just going to be showing you guys how this works from an appointment booking standpoint, because that's a very common use case that I see. And if you set up this agent to be able to accomplish several tasks for you, it could easily free up a lot of time on weekends and on off hours that you would otherwise be having to work and do this manually. With all of this said, let's jump straight into how this thing is built so you guys can see exactly how this works. So let's take a look at what's going on behind the scenes here with this voice agent. As we go through this, there's a few things that I want you to keep in mind. The first being the system prompt, and this contains all of the instructions that the voice agent is to follow for every single call that it goes through. And within this, I've also instructed it to have access to these tools right here. The first of which is actually the system that checks if the property that the user is asking for actually exists in your system. If it does, it'll go on to actually set up a date for the user to book in that appointment with you. And this automation actually connects to a second one, which actually books in the appointment for you and sends the user their confirmation. So let's take a look at the system prompt so you guys can understand it a little better. I broke it up into several sections here that each have important aspects of what the call is going to need to cover. So I have a persona role for the agent. I have a task along with steps that the agent is supposed to follow. I have some specifics to outline a few details that they're to go through and to remember throughout the call. And I also have an example here of a sample script that resembles something that the agent might actually encounter as a call. This is actually a very important step because it actually instructs the agent and gives it an idea of what sort of dialogues it can expect, and it'll kind of give it an idea on how to respond to these users. And lastly, I've also included a little notes section here for just little last minute reminders and things to just keep in mind. So in case you guys are wondering, I have this system running on GPT-4o cluster. And despite the fact that it's a little bit more expensive than 4o mini and GPT 3.5, it's actually going to be performing a lot better, and it'll follow our instructions a lot more precisely. So if we go in here and take a look at this first message, it's actually set up to act as kind of an introduction. The agent will introduce itself, ask for the user's name, and ask what matter they'd like to discuss on this call today. And now if we're going to get into the system prompt here, the role that I've assigned this agent is to be a helpful assistant that's designed to help users book property showing. And this is where you could change a lot of the main functions of the agent here. So you can instruct it to do anything in this section, but just to keep things more straightforward, this is going to be a property booking agent. And within this task here, I have defined a 7-step process that the agent is supposed to follow as it goes through its calls. First, it's of course going to ask for the user's name. Then it'll ask what property they would like to see. After that, it's going to request a date and time that the user is comfortable with, and it'll use the check availability function that I'm about to show you in a minute. Now, if the property that the user brings up doesn't exist on your files, or if the time that they ask for is unavailable, the agent will just simply let them know, and it will request a new time or ask if they're interested in any other properties. So when a date and time are agreed upon for the showing, the book showing function will be activated by the agent so that it can actually send that confirmation and actually book that appointment in. Then the agent will ask for the caller's preferred email address to send this confirmation to, and it'll also ask for any additional notes that the user might want to include when it comes to the showing. Finally, it'll end the call with a friendly message, and it'll address the user by name whenever it's relevant to do so. So the last thing that I want to go through with this script is this example right here, and this actually corresponds to the task instructions that I have here. What this does is it acts as an example script for what the agent can expect to go through in terms of the dialogues that it's going to be seeing. So here it just goes through every step and it just lines it up so that the agent actually has an example. So these instructions here are going to quote unquote train the model on what instructions to follow, and it'll help it to maintain a higher degree of accuracy when it's actually going through multiple calls with multiple different people, just so that things don't get mixed up or confused. So for the purposes of this video, I was just going to give you a basic overview of how this agent works, but if you're interested in the analysis section, the advanced features or functions, or any of these other tabs, be sure to leave a comment down below. In the meantime, let's take a look at this first automation here. This is the one that's going to determine whether the properties the caller is asking for actually exist on your system, and it's going to manage the actual appointment booking process. So let's take a zoom in here and see how this works. This custom webhook here is what's going to be taking information from Vapi and sending it to this automation. When the caller actually tells the agent what property they want, it's going to go to an Airtable database that has all of the properties that your firm or that a specific agent is managing on file, so that it can cross-reference it to make sure that that property actually is on file. So if the property does not exist, it's going to send a response back to Vapi to tell the user that this property doesn't exist, and it's going to ask if there's anything else they're interested in while they're on the call. But if the property does exist, it's going to take the booking information, like the date and the time, and pass that through to your Google Calendar to see if you are in fact available on that day. And from there, if you are available, it'll simply send a response back to Vapi so that it can get that appointment scheduled. If their suggested date actually isn't available, it will take all of the information that it just took from Google Calendar for your availability. It'll transform that into JSON. This is just a way to format data and to pass it on to GPT in a way that's easier for it to understand and process. So with that information, GPT is actually going to pick out new times that can be suggested to the user, and then it will formulate that into a message that can be passed on with this webhook so that the agent can suggest a few new times or dates for the user to consider. Now when it actually comes to booking the appointment, this is the automation that we're going to be using. So the custom webhook right here is actually going to take that information from Vapi that has the property that the user requested along with the date and time that they'd like to view the property. So that's going to create an event in your Google Calendar, and then it will formulate all of that data into a Gmail message that can be sent to the caller according to the email that they gave you. And after that, this response is just to confirm that everything went through and that the appointment was successfully booked and the email was successfully sent over. So this entire system can be extremely useful, not just for real estate agents, but to anybody who has appointments being booked that need to be managed in off hours or even during the day when you're trying to get other work done. It just makes things a lot easier for you if you're able to free up some time to focus on other things without having to constantly check your calendar and answer your phone and be keeping up with all of these appointments that keep stacking up. And of course, since this is all connected to your Google Calendar, you will get notifications every time a new appointment is booked, and you can actually go through and manage those yourself if there happens to be anything that you'd like to change or if there's any communications you'd like to follow up with. So I hope you guys got some value out of this one, and if you have any questions, be sure to let me know down in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them or continue this conversation with you guys. And with that, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.